This module is called Operate Machinery, and there is some general information here about machines and how to use them. So some things are specific to excavator, some things are specific to skid steer, but in general, the information in this module covers both. A little bit down the track, I think it's element 9 or 8 or 9, we talk specifically about skid steer and specifically about excavator. But in this one, this is general knowledge about machine operation.
If a machine breaks down, for example, a burst hydraulic hose, number 1, stop the machine. Number 2, you need to tag it out. Number 3 is report it to your supervisor and then get it repaired. The way you'd actually find out where services are underground, number 1 is dial before you dig. You can go to council plans, or you can go to your service provider.
Everybody who works on a job site needs to read and understand the work instructions. It's relative to everybody who's got a role on the job site.
Okay, if you come across some loose soil, some sand, some building material, wet material, there's a good indication that there will be an underground service very close. So you will need to get off and hand dig to locate that service. When working on a construction site, some of the most common things you need to be aware of is personnel walking around the job site, overhead power lines, other machinery working on the job site, other vehicles, open trenches, buildings. You need to be aware of all these when working. If you're driving a machine too close to a trench that is 1.5 metres deep, you will need to remove the workers immediately, get some shoring, have that installed straight away so to prevent the trench from actually collapsing. 2 examples you need to know are to stop trenches from actually caving in once they reach 1.5, or if the soil is unstable, it's called benching and battering. The first one here is called a batter, so that's your ground level, and the sides are beveled out at 45 degrees. Now that's if it's 1.5 metres deep or unstable ground. The second one is benching. So you'll have it in that section there. This section here could be 1 metre, that could be 1 metre, and that could be 1 metre, which allows you to stay under the 1.5, and that is called benching. Your biggest danger of using a machine in an enclosed space is carbon monoxide poisoning or fumes from the exhaust system. When you're working on soft or uneven ground with a machine, just to make it safer, just reduce the load that you're carrying. Why should you never lift anyone in a bucket? It's dangerous and it's illegal. It's not a registered lifting device. Okay, the risk of working at night is very, very limited vision. Light is poor and can make it hard to make judgments when operating a machine on a construction site. Okay, so this is our trench. So we want to stop water from coming into this trench. Say for instance, we might have a mound up along here, or a hill or a slope coming down this way in this direction. And if we get rain, water's going to run down into that trench. So there's 2 ways we can go. We can dig ourselves a V-drain along the top to divert the water coming down the slope away from there and away. Alternatively, we can build a mound of dirt that runs right along here, which will actually do the same thing, diverting the water coming down past the trench, so it's not going into the trench.
So we've just started to dig a trench here. The rule of thumb in relation to how far away you place your materials is basically However deep the trench is how far out you place the materials. So the depth equals the distance. So in this case, we're about 300 at the moment for the trench. So we're going to be about 300 out for the materials. If you're 1 metre deep, you're going to go 1 metre out, and if you're 2 metres deep, you're going to go 2 metres out, and so on. A couple of reasons for this. The deeper you go, the more chance the trench has of caving in. And also the deeper you go, the bigger the pile's going to be out the side as well. So you don't want the pile to start to backfill the trench before you're ready. So there's a real safety factor here. The more material you put close to the trench, the more pressure it puts on the trench. So the trench has got a bigger chance of caving in. There's a real danger of burying people or seriously injuring people if a trench caves in. So make sure you get this right. The trench material needs to be far enough away from the trench so it doesn't put pressure on the sidewalls, it doesn't cave in, and it doesn't backfill itself. All machines have different limits and specifications for each machine. So the best place to look is in your user manuals. You'll always find probably a blue one like this, and your user manual should be on the machine, and in here should be the user manual. Always trust that. It's often going to be hard to find the specs or the limits on the machine written anywhere. They may have worn off, they may have scratched up, so this is always the best place to go for your limits and specifications.
Two methods to use for stripping topsoil are windrow and stockpile. This can be reeled up by a grader, which is how it's usually done, but you can actually build it with other machines. And then by stripping topsoil, you can then stockpile it so that it stays there ready for the end of the job. Okay, the effects that moisture has on any sort of soil is it makes it heavier. It can make it easier for compaction, but it also can make it harder to spread. Filling out a stockpile is quite simple. Let's say, for instance, we have a wall or a fence here, and we're stripping soil from a block. Start filling from your closest to a wall or a fence, moving backwards, next pile backwards, moving forward, pushing up. You may want to push some up here, then that gets pushed to there. You just keep filling always from the back and work your way back towards the front. If a warning sound or a buzzer goes off on your machine, number one, stop your machine. Number two, tag it out, report it to the supervisor and get it repaired.